Once people begin to recognize that understanding isn't enough, the next question naturally becomes, what actually creates change? And this is where things begin to deepen, because most approaches to change focus on what is visible: behavior, thinking, actions, strategies. And those things matter. They can create movement. They can create improvement, but they don't always create transformation. And this is where people often feel stuck again, because they can change what they do without changing what they experience. They can think differently without feeling different. They can apply a strategy and still find themselves pulled back into the same pattern. And that's where the confusion comes back, because it feels like it should be working, but it isn't holding. And the reason for that is that transformation doesn't happen at the level of behavior. It happens at the level that the behavior is being generated from, which means we're not just working with what someone is doing, we're working with how they are experiencing themselves while they are doing it, what something means to them, what they expect will happen, what they believe is possible, what they believe is not possible, what they are anticipating, what they are protecting. And this is where the nervous system becomes central, because the nervous system is not concerned with what you want logically. It is concerned with what feels safe. And safety is not always aligned with what you consciously want. In fact, very often it isn't, because what feels familiar is often interpreted as safe, even if it's not what you want, even if it's limiting, even if it's painful. And this is where a lot of people unknowingly work against themselves. They try to think differently. They try to behave differently. They try to override the pattern. But another part of the system is holding it in place, not because it's broken, but because it's protecting something. It's maintaining something. It's keeping something stable. So the change doesn't hold, or it requires constant effort, or it feels like something you have to manage. And that's the difference between surface level change and structural change. Surface level change requires maintenance. Structural change reorganizes the system. And when the system reorganizes, the behavior changes as a byproduct, not as something you have to force. And this is where people begin to experience something very, very different. Instead of trying to convince themselves to act differently, they find that they simply respond differently. Instead of managing a pattern, the pattern is no longer generated in the same way. And that's where change becomes easier. Not because it's simple, but because it's aligned with how the system actually works. And this is why some work creates lasting change and some doesn't. Because it's not about how much you understand. It's about whether the level that actually holds the pattern has shifted.